Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning into another Supatease video. And with this one, I wanted to give a rundown of Jungle Cleave and my thoughts to be able to best it. This is going to be coming from a Resto Druid perspective, but will work out for basically all situations. Jungle Cleave is a very popular composition at the moment. It won the European AWC, and it is just a really top dog. So knowing strategies to be able to beat it, knowing what they're trying to do to win so you can prevent it are going to be very important in your potential success against it. So in this particular clip, I'm playing with an Arms Warrior and a Fire Mage. My main duty against this composition is to remove the Feral Druid from the fight, as the Feral Druid is going to be providing a significant portion of the healing. So if you can remove the Feral Druid from the fight, you are going to force the Priest to expend a lot more mana, allowing you to get to the point where you can win because they run out of steam and they run out of fumes, basically, that at that point. So my main goal is to use Hibernate, Bash, Cyclone, Incaps, Vortexes, everything in my arsenal to remove the Feral Druid from healing. You need to cross crowd control. Remove the Feral Druid, remove the Priest, and target the Hunter means that nobody is able to heal the Hunter, and the Hunter is actually very fragile when he doesn't have two people healing him. So that is going to be the main objective of this. If that doesn't work in netting a kill, then it will have a fallback strategy of running the Priest out of mana. So right at the start of the fight, you got to figure out who they're going to attack, and jungle can really bounce around a lot and make a lot of swaps. So you always want to have fallbacks in terms of saving certain heals. So at the start of the fight, I like to start with Innervate Overgrowth just to get those spells on cooldown so I can use them again in the fight later on. And I use Cenarian Ward on my warrior, and then I look to try and extend that as soon as I can. So my warrior is fully hotted while I'm stunned into trap. I call for War Banner. My warrior lands the banner, reducing the trap duration, and because of all of those pre-hots, he sits at 100% health, taking 0 damage, and I can still extend them right at the end of the crowd control, which now means that my warrior should be more than fine to stay aggressive, push in, and cleave targets. I'm still kind of sitting in the back line at this point, trying to find my moment to push and look for crowd control. The Hunter's looking to silence me. I like shapeshifting to get the Chimeral Sting portion of the first part just out of the way. I see the Priest moving forward in a good position to stun, so I'm going to jump forward, bash the Priest, Vortex the Priest. Attacking the Priest is actually a very good idea. If you really want to pressure them, it's going to remove a lot of extra damage from their team. It's going to force them to use Shadow Men and get a lot of cooldowns. Stacking them up and cleaving them as we have in this position. Interrupting the Feral Druid on clone prevents them from healing, but I'm also going to Cyclone the Feral Druid. And again, this is because the Feral Druid is going to be doing a beefy chunk of the healing. Look at while the Feral Druid is sitting through a Cyclone, the Hunter and Priest are at half health in shambles running away. So my goal is to still try and remove their threats. Now I clone the Hunter, trying to prevent him from being recovered because the Priest is still kind of the primary target. We're trying to force them to go into the Warrior. This way I can keep all of my heal over time effects on the Warrior, and if I'm able to keep them on the same target that they're attacking, they're almost never going to be able to kill that target. They're going to have to swap. But because we're playing such an aggressive strategy on their Priest, do they just leave the Warrior alone? It's going to be really tough for them to adapt to this type of strategy. And if they decide to completely turtle, you can sit in the back and just try and get drinks, try and force them off of it and kind of flank them out a little bit. Here they've realized, attacking the warrior with full hots is not going to work, and they start poking me, and this is what I mean by jungle can swap around a lot. We use an intimidating shout here that fears the Priest and the Feral, preventing healing from both of them, allows us to isolate the Hunter and try and blast them down. So this is a good example of a clean setup that you want to be trying to aim to do. Other than that, you can look to try and stack them on the Priest and cleave multiple targets. That's a great fallback. You can see the Priest already at 28k mana out of 50, so almost half mana, not even a minute and 20 into this match at the moment. We position forward because our warrior was kind of overextended. We're going to use Iron Bark, and we could have gone for a Cyclone, but it's on diminishing return. So instead I look towards trying to get at the Priest and maybe go for a Cyclone on the Priest. Then I switch to the Hunter. Then I get interrupted into a stun, and this is where Freezing Trap's going to come. So you can tell your teammates to stand next to you when you're stunned against a Hunter. This will allow them to potentially soak the crowd control. They end up swapping to me because they don't want to risk missing their trap. So being in bear form before you push forward is a good idea. Here I use Ursa's Vortex on the bottom and then jump up to the top. This is hopefully so that the Feral Druid, if he tries to jump up to me, will get pulled down again. But they end up being able to get around that mechanic. That can be a great kiting mechanism. And since they've pretty much dedicated themselves to me at this point. I'm going to use Cenarian Ward and extend that on myself. And as soon as I've done that, I start hotting up my warrior, expecting them to swap. Surprisingly, they didn't. But my auto frenzy was able to come in and save me, thankfully, at that moment in time. Here we've got the Feral Druid far away from the priest, and the priest is in a poly, so we want to bash the Feral. We want to control the Feral and the priest. They're both in crowd control. We cast Hibernate. If they shapeshift that, we clone. Otherwise, we get a full Hibernate. We've isolated the Hunter, and look at the pressure on the Hunter. Look how much more mana the priest is spending whenever we're trying to coordinate this crowd control onto the priest and the Feral. Once you have the priest out of mana, you can attack the priest a little bit more as well. Like I said, it's not a bad idea in between your crowd control setups to just cleave. Like I think my warrior is poking the priest and the hunter at this moment in time, just getting pressure. And I've just completely removed the Feral Druid from the fight for like, I don't know how long that was, like almost 20 seconds. And it's cost the priest another 8k mana trying to keep the hunter alive at this point. Here is kind of a preemptive war banner for my warrior, maybe anticipating a stun. I think saving the war banner for traps on the healer is going to be a better strat. They mind control the warrior off the ledge, so this tells me that they really want to go on the warrior, or it's a bait to bring me into their clutches. So I'm holding on to my Cenarian Ward and I'm getting into bear form, and I'm trying to figure out what it is that they want to do. So they've popped Beast of Wrath on me. I think that they're committed to me because the Feral is running at me and not my warrior in the opposite direction. So I want to pull the Feral Druid away from the hunter and away from the priest so that the Feral Druid is unable to heal them. We could switch to the Feral Druid in this back line, or just keep him back here away from his team so he isn't able to heal them, so our warrior can continue wreaking havoc. This is why it's kind of like a two-pronged assault. You're going to keep hitting the warrior with full hots, that's killing your priest and hunter, or you're going to come and hit me and get crowd controlled. It puts them in almost a checkmate position, which is why I really like this strategy, particularly against jungle. And you can see the priest now down to 15k mana at this point. Feral Druid's running at my warrior, or in the vicinity of my warrior, so I'm going to switch life blooms to my warrior. I'm always monitoring the Feral Druid. Where's the Feral Druid standing? Where's the Feral Druid going? And that's determining where my life bloom is going to go and whether or not I'm going into bear form if they're in close proximity to me. And we just keep looking for crowd control. If you can remove the Feral Druid from the fight, you want to. So I tried to Cyclone. They end up max ranging it. I try and use Vortex to pull the Feral Druid away from his team. But the Feral Druid will be a very tough target to kill. As they have so many defensive cooldowns, it's very easy for them to get predatory swiftness to recover against teams that can't 100-0 them in a stun. But here the hunter is attacking me, and I can anticipate that the Feral is going to try and run at me in a second, so I'm just in bear form, kind of tanking the hunter damage, getting ready to see who they're going to go after. I in-cap the pets. I let my priest know this. If you crowd control the pets, then using combustion, which is a crit mechanic, can't be Roar of Sacrificed. So crowd controlling the pets for your mage, if you're running that, or just crowd controlling the pets in general before you do a go. Here we get another double fear, so the priest and Feral Druid are both unable to heal, and the Feral Druid has to use a trinket, because if they don't, the hunter is going to die in that full fear. So whenever you can get that cross, the Feral Druid and the priest out of the game at the same time, you want to. We counterspell the Feral Druid. This means the Feral Druid also can't heal, let alone clone. And then I should be trying to push at this time to try and get the Feral Druid in more crowd control, whether it be a bash or a hibernate. So I'm pushing on top of the Feral Druid. I'm overgrowthing, innervating. I think at this point when the priest is out of mana, actually I shift gears where I wanted to stand on top of the priest. I wanted to drag the Feral Druid on top of the priest and then get sweeping strikes, cleave, get stuns, push aggressive, and close out the game. Because sometimes you can get in this awkward position where their priest is out of mana, but they just refuse to die because you're not making this push. So I make a really kind of aggressive move. I don't necessarily recommend this. It may have been also just at the wrong time. When I make this push, I use Tranquility with the new honor talent to immune myself so they can't attack me, they can't crowd control me. I like chaining that into Fleshcraft for an even longer extended time of being immune to crowd control, so that I can just stand on top of the priest. We can drop Ring of Fire, we can get sweeping strikes, we can cleave as many targets as we can and try and expend the rest of their mana. But pulling the Feral Druid away if they're attacking you is just as good of a strategy. That way they aren't able to heal the priest. Here we use an intervene, and then we immediately want to get back onto the priest. We stun the Feral Druid to prevent their attack. Kind of just wanting them to hit me. I have full hots at this point. You want the enemy to hit your Cenarian Ward as much as possible. Here the priest tries to sneak away and drink. You have to monitor that because that is your fallback win condition, is that their healer will be out of mana. So as soon as I notice it, I go into travel form. I wild charge across the map. I could use my high mountain racial here. I actually don't, but I probably should have to be able to get in range. Then I can use an in cap. I can look for a cyclone. We have the hunter low. And we just end up killing him in the in cap. So they're in this tough spot where they're trying to sneak away. They're trying to get drinks. And because they weren't able to, they kind of just get crushed. When the priest tried to go drink, I could crowd control control them instead and shift gears a little bit. But this strategy really works effectively. I try and perform it as consistently as I can. Trying to get the feral and the priest at the same time before you send a lot of burst damage, so like your cooldown windows. And then in between, just kind of cleave whatever you can. Try and run the priest out of mana. Set up the double crowd control, cleave, crowd control, cleave, crowd control, cleave. Switch gears, priest trying to drink, crowd control the priest instead. And then you're going to be able to execute your kills. But jungle is still a really good comp. I still lose to it quite often, but this is basically the the base boards of the house for the strategy that I try to use to beat it. Other than that, I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button. I do my best to keep this channel as a great resource to enhance your experience with World of Warcraft, whether it be patch news, updates, class changes, and the like, so that you can stay in the know in the now and maybe peak yourself in the future to play World of Warcraft or maybe change a class. And other than that, we do guides and funny videos as well. But we will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.